These days, we see these silly debates online how MLS has no real fans because they're not real clubs, they're just franchises to make money. Well, people who are watching the league, they know that this isn't true. Whether it be the fans' presence in the club's first ever match, being present for championships or heartbreaking defeats, a club's connections to its fans is individual and determined by a single person, not by what somebody online says is a real club or not. It's even more impressive when the power of these fans drives MLS to their own front door. And that is where we get our story today. In the Pacific Northwest, this is how the Seattle Sounders name made it from the NASL all the way to MLS's doorstep. To do that, of course, we need to jump back in time prior to MLS days and talk about how Seattle has always had this rich and treasured footy history that has always been fan driven. Even when they started off in the NASL, the fans chose the name the Sounders through a fan vote. They had other legendary names like the Cascades, the Evergreens, the Mariners, which wouldn't have worked out so well, the Shooters, and the Sockeyes. All wonderful NASL names that would have been great fits. But for nearly a decade, starting in 1974, the Sounders boasted the top league attendance figures, so much so that they needed to expand the ground that they played in, Memorial Stadium, to almost 18,000 seats. Though on the field, they could never quite keep up with the success of Pele and the supercharged New York Cosmos, Seattle earned second place finishes in their existence twice. There was no secret that Seattle was a soccer town, but the struggles of the NASL as a league led to them folding in 1983. After that, America entered the dark period where soccer was persona non grata in the sports landscape until the launch of the APSL in 1990. When it did, the love for the Sounders ran true as former coach Alan Hinton purchased the naming rights to bring the team of the Sounders to the APSL. There were some hiccups as the Seattle had already had an APSL team at the time. They were waiting for them to switch leagues or fold or whatever, it may be. And they teamed up with new owners from Microsoft to get the funding to do it. The Sounders' legacy lived on, and they made their debut in the 1994 A-League, which was the APSL just renamed. They would take this debut in 1994 and top the league in their first ever season. On top of that, they would add regular season finishes at the top in 2002, 2007. Furthermore, they added 4 league championships in 95, 96, 05, and 07. However, through all this time, MLS was growing and thriving, and it was pretty clear what the goal was: get Seattle an MLS side. While the Sounders existed in the lower leagues, ownership groups from other areas were circling, trying to figure out how to put MLS in Seattle. There was debate whether MLS was the right move or if staying in the A-League made more sense at the time of MLS's start in 1996. Originally, a team needed 10,000 signatures to be considered for an MLS startup team, but because of this split, the Seattle area was failed to be awarded that club. After seeing how successful the APSL version of the Sounders were, MLS was driven away, but that was just for the time being. They tried a few more times, unsuccessfully for field conditions or other reasons, but in 2008, their expansion bid was heard. 2007, Don Garber and company were looking for another expansion area, and Seattle was still on the list. The expansion bid of $30 million was started with the A-League Sounders owner, Adrian Hanauer. He teamed up with producer Joe Roth and Paul Allen, the operator of Quest Field, home of the NFL's Seattle Seahawks. They were close, but felt that they needed one more name to get this bid over the line. Anybody who's seen Whose Line Is It Anyway knows this next name, and that is Drew Carey. His investment convinced Don Garber, and the expansion club was awarded to Seattle. At this point, there was only one thing left. What will the new team be called? The ownership had seen the Seattle Sounders name for years and thought it was time for a fresh start. In other areas, not like Seattle, this might have been accepted. Maybe they had a lower fan presence for the lower league side that existed, but that wasn't Seattle. Their massive fan base was not happy when they heard that the Sounders was not being considered. The team initially announced a crop of names, including the Seattle Alliance, Seattle FC, boo, and the Seattle Republic. However, fans took their power to the next level. They took their voice to any outlet that would hear it. Online forums, newspapers, pubs, people walking down the street, they made it known that they were not happy and they were heard. These four owners of the Seattle Sounders were committed to creating a fan-friendly team. Listen to the fans and do as they ask. That is the theme of this team, and this is where it starts. After they were heard, the Sounders added a fourth option, a write-in option. Instantly, word spread at the opportunity to save the Sounders' name and bring it into the top division of American football. Blogs were made to ensure that the correct vote was casted, not to add FC to the end to make sure that everything was counted to the same Seattle Sounders name. Fans could choose the team name similar to the process 30 years ago. And with a similar process, there was a similar outcome. From over 15,000 votes, nearly 50% of them were for the original name, the Seattle Sounders. That's 7,500 people. As mentioned, the owners were committed to making this a fan-friendly club. And to do that, they listened. The Seattle Sounders were officially in MLS. For, I believe, legal reasons, FC was added onto the end of it just to differentiate between the two sides. But the Seattle Sounders had made it all the way to MLS. Frank McDonald on SoundersFC.com summarized what this team meant to the group. And he says, for some reason, the formative seasons of the NASL Sounders were sacred. So special was the connection between the lads and their legion of fans at Memorial Stadium. Capacity crowds, never a drop of rain on game days, rituals of the players giving a wave goodnight and going into the stand to give out roses. It was clear that this group was more than just a name. There were deep-slated traditions, decades old, memories and connections between fans and players that were tied directly to the players that were there, the name of the team they supported, all of it was one entity. It wasn't like something you could just get rid of. To get rid of it just for a shot at the top was unimaginable. So the fans made sure it never happened. So the next time someone tells you that there are no real fans in MLS, be sure to remind them of the brilliant support and love that the Sounders fans give their club each and every day.